Aloha ESOL 94 students. This week our grammar focus is on avoiding common sentence problems. Since this is our last week before the final, I wanted to make sure that we take a look at some of these common sentence problems. Before we get really started, let's take a look at these three sentences, and I'll just give you a couple seconds here. If you need to pause the video, that's fine, and take a look and see if you think these are grammatically correct. Okay, so let's take a look at the first one, spending hours every day after school at my job and finishing my homework. This sentence is actually a fragment, and we'll talk a little bit more about fragments. The second sentence, Jennifer loves chocolate, comma, she just cannot stop eating it. This sentence has a comma splice in it. And the final sentence, the doctor gave me some medicine, however I am allergic to it. This is a run-on sentence. So how do we avoid these three common sentence errors? Fragments, comma splice, and run-ons. Let's take a look at the first of those. We know that sentence rules, to be grammatically correct, a sentence must have a subject and a verb, express a complete thought, and begin with a capital letter and end with a correct punctuation. And these are the basic sentence rules. Let's take a look at our first common error, and that is fragments. Fragments occur when a sentence is incomplete. It's missing either a subject or a verb or both. I like many sports, period. For example, basketball, football, and soccer. Or, my brother is good at math, period. Science too. In the first sentence, we are missing a verb. So in the second part, it says, for example, basketball, football, and soccer are some of my favorites. Now we have a complete sentence. In the second sentence, we can change it to, my brother is good at math. He is good at science too. Fragments occur when a sentence is incomplete. It does not express a complete thought because it is a dependent clause. This is the second type of fragment, a dependent clause. Let's take a look at a couple examples. My education was very valuable to me, period, because I developed so many important skills in school. The problem here is in the second sentence. Or, I am not a good singer, even though I practice singing at karaoke every week. The problem here is also in the second sentence. So what we see in these two sentences is that they are dependent on the first sentence to complete the thought or the meaning. So we can correct these. The first one can be corrected by saying, my education was very valuable to me because I developed so many important skills in school. This is one reason I ask you not to start sentences with because. This often causes fragments. In the second sentence, we can change that and say, I am not a good singer even though I practice singing at karaoke every week. This also helps to make more complex sentences. So that's fragments. Let's take a look at our second common error, which is comma splice. A comma splice occurs when two sentences are joined by a comma. My roommate stays up late every night. She doesn't like to sleep. We have a comma here. We're trying to join these two sentences, but we're missing something. So if we want to fix a comma splice, there's two things we can do. We can fix a comma splice by number one, making two separate sentences. My roommate stays up late every night, period. She doesn't like to sleep. Or adding a conjunction. My roommate stays up late every night because she doesn't like to sleep. Number two is a good option if you're trying to increase your word count and also have more complex sentences. That's comma splice. Our final point that we're going to focus on is run-ons. And this is another common error. A run-on occurs when two separate sentences are combined into one. Let's take a look at the first kind. Run-on type 1. Punctuation is missing. Yesterday the weather was terrible. It rained all day. We can add a period here and say yesterday the weather was terrible, period. It rained all day. This creates two sentences from the run-on sentence. Another type of run-on sentence is when a transitional phrase is used as a conjunction. Hawaii is very beautiful, comma, on the other hand, comma, it is very expensive. The phrase on the other hand is a transitional phrase and should be used at the beginning of a sentence. Hawaii is very beautiful, period. On the other hand, it is very expensive. So every time you write a paper, a blog posting, an email, or any type of writing, make sure that you check your sentences carefully to make sure there are no fragments, comma splices, or run-ons. Feel free to ask me if you have any questions, and you can watch this video as many times as you'd like. Aloha.